Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Done? Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtota Shri Srimad Abhaya Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtota Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Thakur Shri Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavind Ki. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavind Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Jagannath Puri Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulasi Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhaktavind Ki. Shri Prabhupada, Transcendental Book Distribution and Divarnashram Farm Communities Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I was asked by Prabhu to focus on verse number 39 of Canto 8, Chapter 6. So, Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparnaham Patatam Varaha Yayo Jalam Ante Utsrijya Harinam Saha Visarjitaha Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparnaf Palatam Varaha Yayo Jalanta Utsrijya Harinasa Visarjitaha Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparnaf Patatam Varaha Yayo Jalanta Utsrijya Harinasa Visarjitaha. Please repeat. Avaropya Girim Skandha. patatam varaham. Avaropya girim skandat. Suparnah patatam varaham. Yayo jalanta utsrijya. Harinasa visarjitaha. Avaropya, unloading. Girim, the mountain. Skandat, from his shoulder. Suparnaham, Garuda. Patatam, of all the birds. Varaham, the biggest or most powerful. Yayo, went. Jala ante, where the water is. Utsrijya, placing. Harinam, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Saham, he, Garuda. Visarjitaham, discharged from that place. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, Garuda, the chief of birds, unloaded Mandara mountain from his shoulder and brought it near the water. Then he was asked by the Lord to leave that place, and he left. Purport. Garuda was asked to leave that place because the snake Vasuki, who was to be used as a rope for churning, could not go there in the presence of Garuda. Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, is not a vegetarian. He eats big snakes. Vasuki, being a great snake, would be natural food for Garuda, the chief of birds. Lord Vishnu therefore asked Garuda to leave so that Vasuki could be brought to churn the ocean with the Mandara mountain, which was to be used as a churning rod. These are the wonderful arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing takes place by accidents. Carrying Mandara mountain on the back of a bird and putting it in its right position might be difficult for anyone, whether demigod or demon. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible, as shown by this pastime. The Lord has no difficulty in lifting the mountain with one hand, and Garuda, his carrier, carried all the demons and the demigods together by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is known as Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic power, because of his omnipotence. If he likes, he can make anything lighter than cotton or heavier than the universe. Those who do not believe in the activities of the Lord cannot explain how things happen. Using words like accident, they take shelter of ideas that are unbelievable. Nothing is accidental. Everything is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Whatever actions and reactions occur within the cosmic manifestation all take place under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, because the demons do not understand the potency of the Lord, when wonderful things are done, the demon thinks that they are accidental. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 8th canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Demigods and the Demons Declare a Truce. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadah Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sakarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karana Sandho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namane Harijanagana Badi Gnana Karmanda Hari Prakatita Parabhaktir Bhakti Siddhanta Kantihi Vinay Nikara Lakshmi Nimna Maidai Ragamyo Bhuvijayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Destarane Vagisha yasya vadane Lakshmir yasya shivakshase yasyasya hidaye samvitam nrsimham aham bhaje. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to get an overview of what had happened since the last verse that we read, the Indra, following the instructions of Lord Vishnu, agrees to make a truce with the demons. And initially, when Indra approaches the demons, Bali Maharaj is ready to have a truce with the demigods, but his other associates are ready to fight and kill them. So, but Bali Maharaj, Prabhupada writes in the purpose over there that just like how in this world there's politics, there's diplomacy, there's all these kinds of dealings between rulers, it seems like it's also there in the upper planetary systems. So they declare a truce, and both sides think that once the nectar comes, our side will drink it, forget the other side. And the demons thought, hey, look, we've already defeated the demigods. Here is Bali Maharaj, he's sitting on the throne of Indra, he's conquered the 3 worlds. What can they do to us? So because they're already weak, let us therefore go forward and agree to this deal. So we can say, and one thing which honestly amazes me a lot is how much faith they have in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods, that they were able to convince the demons that what we need to do is we need to lift a big mountain made of gold. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that gold is heavier than stone. So naturally, the whole mountain of gold is heavier than a mountain of stone. So they are convinced that they have to lift this entire mountain and take it in the middle of the ocean and churn it. And it's inconceivable. Like, why are they thinking like this? What's the whole point? It seems like the Lord wanted a milkshake or something. Just churning an ocean, trying to get something out of it. Get all these herbs, get all these things, mix it up, and you churn it, you get something. But we can see that they were convinced. They were convinced that this is what needs to get done. And Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he writes that the demons, because they are always dependent upon their own power and they do not accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will not be victorious. Whereas the demigods, or the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they have faith in the Supreme Lord, are always victorious. They're always victorious, and they're successful because they have the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So both parties, they go to lift this Mandara mountain. And when they go to lift this Mandara mountain, they're trying, and all the demons and demigods are very powerful beings. They're all extremely powerful. They can do so many things that we cannot even imagine. They can perform activities, they can become small, they can become big, they can carry so many things, they can do amazing feats. But all the demigods and demons combined, that's the ultimate super team. There's no team better than that unless Lord Vishnu is on one of the sides. So both of them come together and they try to lift this mountain. But even all of them with their full strength, full max capacity combined, they get crushed by the weight of this mountain. So then Lord Vishnu, understanding what's going on, comes to this point. He comes to see the demigods and the demons, and he lifts up this mountain with one hand, puts it on the shoulder of Garuda, and all the demigods and demons are also carried on Garuda for them to be transferred over to the spot where the Samudra Mantana, or the churning of the milk ocean, is going to take place. So this is where we're at, especially now when we come to this part. Prabhupada is making an important point that Garuda was asked to leave because the snake Vasuki, who was to be used as a rope for churning, could not go there in the presence of Garuda. Why? Because Garuda eats snakes. If he was to take initiation now, then he would follow the three regulative principles. The fourth is bona fide for him. He can eat the snake meat, I guess. But we should not imitate what the great devotees do. Anukarana and Anucharana. Sorry, Anukarana and Anusharana, sorry. Anukarana and Anusharana. We should not imitate, but we should take shelter of these personalities. So we see Garuda is always absorbed in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is such an exalted devotee that even when he flaps his wings, the sounds that come out are hymns of the Vedas. This is very amazing, that when a bird is flapping its wings, now we've been in New York and there's so many pigeons there. we hear the flapping of the wings of the pigeons many times. We never heard the Vedas come out of that flapping. It's just a not so pleasing sound. But when Garuda flaps his wings, there's beautiful Vedic hymns which are produced. And he's a carrier of Lord Vishnu. And we can see that Garuda also, he was, he had a, what's it called? He had a fight, or he had some kind of problem with Kaliya actually. Because Garuda used to go to the island where Kaliya and the other snakes used to live, and he used to eat snakes inadvertently, how many of his snakes that he wanted. But then they came to a truce. We will offer you a snake in such and such a time, every time, and then you can come and eat that, and you can let us live peacefully. So Garuda agreed, but then Kaliya became so arrogant and puffed up that he thought that, you know what, why should Garuda eat this offering? I will eat this offering. And he started to eat the offering, and Garuda got very upset and started attacking Kaliya. And then in the Krishna book, Prabhupada writes that Kaliya knew that Garuda could not enter the particular lake in Vrindavan. And why? Why couldn't he not enter that particular lake? Yes. What's your name, Prabhuji? Govinda, nice name, yes. Oh, yes. Shabari Muni, yes. Microphone. Right next to you. He's absorbed.
So once a sage was doing like austerities underwater, and Garuda came, like, cause he loved all the fishes inside the sage. He felt compassion for them, and so then Garuda came and took one of the fishes, and he was so angry. He said that if you enter this lake, you will die.
So guys, yes, I wish I was like them. And how old are you? How old is your body? Sorry about that. Yeah, how old is your body? 9. Yeah, I wish I was like that when I was 9. But but we can see that yes, Shabari Muni curses Garuda. Of course, Prabhupada writes that Garuda could easily retaliate, but because he's a Vaishnava, he's very humble. And it says that when he was cursed, Garuda went and kept nectar in a certain tree. Right? And Prabhupada says that he kept nectar in that certain tree because he knew that in the future, Krishna is going to climb this tree and jump into the Yamuna. So he knew. So Kaliya knew, okay, Garuda is cursed. I can enter into this lake and I won't be affected. So he was doing his shenanigans in that lake. And then, of course, and Krishna taught him a lesson. And another thing, the Bhagavatam says, and Prabhupada also writes, I don't know if he writes this point in the Krishna book, that if you're ever afraid of snakes, if you're ever afraid of some snakes biting you, if you simply think of Krishna dancing on the hood of Kaliya, none of the snakes will bother you. So that's, we're in Texas, so some protection verses for all of us. So you see that Prabhupada goes on to say that these are the wonderful arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing takes place by accident. And this is a very important philosophical point, especially as theists, for us to understand. I mean, what to speak of being devotees of Krishna. Anyone who's a theist has to understand the simple point that nothing in this world takes place by accident. Nothing happens by accident. Even if you don't intend to do it, your inattention causes an accident. And if you're driving on the road, you obviously don't intend to, back into your neighbor's post box or whatever. What's it called? Mailbox. Yeah, mailbox. Sorry, from India. So okay, so in India it's called post box. Okay, so you don't intend to back into your neighbor's mailbox, but you do it. It's an accident. But the reason behind that accident was your inattentiveness. Anything that you see in this material world, everything has a cause behind it. That's why Prabhupada says Krishna is, quotes Brahma Samhita, Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. Everything that you see around you. Krishna is the cause of all causes. And we have to understand this point very carefully. That Krishna is the cause of all causes. And then it may appear that Krishna is not the cause right away, but Prabhupada speaks about this important point. He says, remote cause and immediate cause. So Krishna is the ultimate remote cause, and there may be other immediate causes around you. And Prabhupada gives the example of a train being pulled by, there's the main cart which has the engine within it, which has the power to pull all the other carts behind it. And from the momentum and the energy that's generated by the first cart, every other cart behind that train is moving. So Krishna is that cart. He's the cart with the engine, and everything else is a remote cause. And if you go from this cart, okay, so if you're on the last end of the train, you think, oh, this cart is what's pulling the train. No. Next cart, no. Like that. If you keep going, you understand. Immediate cause, little immediate cause, a penultimate to the immediate cause. You go like this. And ultimately, you come to the point of understanding that Krishna, that the remote, Krishna is the remote cause, the cause of all causes. So we see that nothing in this world happens by accident. And Krishna makes this important point, and one must understand that these philosophies which come about, so nowadays there's so many atheistic philosophies, and Prabhupada actually said, the more you defeat Darwin, the more advancement you make in Krishna consciousness. It's amazing. Prabhupada said that. You can say, where did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur write that, right? But no, we can see that Prabhupada is saying this because he's the acharya of the Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He knows the disease of the minds of the conditioned souls. To think that everything came from nothing, or everything, there was nothing and then something exploded, and after something exploded, there was a primordial soup, and from that primordial soup came like a one-celled organism, two-celled organism, and then came a monkey, and then came Charles Darwin. This kind of philosophy, Prabhupada was very much against. Prabhupada spoke out against this. We can also see Prabhupada spoke out against the Big Bang Theory. Prabhupada spoke out against all these things. Why? Because and many news reporters and all of them are very upset with Srila Prabhupada for saying these things. Why? Because you're a holy man. Just talk about the pastimes of Krishna. Just talk about what's in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, Prabhupada is speaking of what's in the Bhagavad Gita. Most people didn't realize that. But why can't you just come and preach your religion? Why do you have to attack the very core of the existence of the material world? Why do you have to attack this? Why do you have to attack our philosophy? Why? Because whether people have stopped and thought for a moment or not, everyone in this world has a philosophy that they abide by. Everyone has a philosophy that they abide by, whether you ask it or not. What's the philosophy of the animals? Eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. That's the philosophy of the animals. As long as I get to eat what I eat, as long as I get to mate at a certain time, as long as I get to defend myself, and as long as I get to sleep, nothing else matters. But Prabhupada would make this point, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now it's time to inquire into the nature of the absolute truth. What does that mean? That because we've attained this human form of life, we must do everything possible in order for us to make spiritual advancement. Is it possible for you to pull up Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 9, text number 29? This verse, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would have on the wall of every room that he would stay in, wherever he would go. And he took a vow that he would preach the import of this verse until the day that he disappears from this world. And what is this verse? Labdhva sadurlabham idam bahusam bhavante manusham arthadam anityam apihadira turnam yatetana patet anumrityu yavan nishrayasaya vishaya kalu sarvatasyat. Translation. After many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for a human being. So, Srila Prabhupada, naturally, being the Senapati Bhakta of Lord Chaitanya, feels great compassion upon the fallen conditioned souls. He sees the conditioned souls. Oh God, how is it that they have so much intelligence, so much? If you say, especially when I first came from India to America, I was shocked to see how much intelligence people have put into sense gratification. Like so much intelligence goes into how you can gratify your senses like this, how you can gratify your senses like that. But bottom line, all the arrangements are simply for animal life. But the human form of life is meant to inquire into the nature of the absolute truth. If you're not inquiring into the nature of the absolute truth, something is going absolutely wrong with our life. That's why in the Bhagavatam 5.5.1, we can pull up, Rishabdev says, Rishabha Uvacha, Nayam Deho Deha Bajram Niloke, Kashchan Kaman Arhate Vidbhujamye, Tapo Divyam Putraka Yena Satma, Yasmad Brahma Sokyam Tvanantam. Where the translation is Lord Rishabdev told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available for the hogs and dogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart becomes purified, and when one's heart attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness. Prabhupada makes an amazing point in this purport, if you could please. Yes, in this verse, Lord Rishabdev tells his sons about the importance of human life. Deha Bhak refers to anyone who accepts a material body. But the living entities of awarded the human form must act differently from animals. This is the point. And Prabhupada would go on hammering this point so much. And why would Prabhupada do that? Because we have to understand that this body that we have, it's like a junction, right? What's a junction? Prabhupada gives this example in this book, Spiritual Yoga. I don't know if you've read this book. It's a small book. It's probably the most brutal small book produced by the BBT. Because it's Prabhupada's lectures on these verses, I think 10 verses that he gave in Bombay. And in this book, or in those lectures, Srila Prabhupada says that this body is a junction. And what is a junction? Right? What's a junction? Anyone? It's no, Junction. Okay, I guess you can go different ways, right? So you come to it's like the crossroads or a junction. So now you come on this road, you come to a certain point, and you could go on I-75 North, or you could go on I-75 South, right? So that's a junction where you could go on I-75 North or I-75 South, or you could go on I-20 East or I-20 West. So you come to a junction where you can either go north, south, east, or west. As you come to a junction. So similarly, this human form of life is a junction, Prabhupada says. And this junction, from this junction, we could go back to animal life. We could be in the mode of passion and stay on the same level that we are as a human being, upper or lower birth. We could get a little bit into the mode of goodness, and we could go to the heavenly planets. But it's all useless if you don't go back home, back to Godhead. That's why Krishna says, is it okay if you are my DJ for the day? Yeah, you can pull up some verses. Okay. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 20 and 21. Krishna makes these important points. He says, Srividya mam sama paputa papa yagyan rishwa sargatim pratayante te punya masadya surendra lokam ashranti divyan divideva bhogan tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. It's chapter 9. Oh, wow, that's a good one, but no. Chapter 9, text number 20. Sorry, if I speak too fast, please stop me. Okay, keep going. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, yeah. Is that it? Yeah, okay. So, there, those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly, purify the sinful reactions. They take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they can enjoy godly delights. Sounds good, right? What does Krishna say next? He says, yeah, you can go to the next. Evam trai dharma manuprapanna. He says, Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam shine punye marti lokam vishanti evam trai dharma manuprapanna gatagatam kama kama labhante. Krishna says over here, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the result of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So what's the point? What did you achieve? You've done all these things. What did you achieve? Simply repeated birth and death. Simply repeated birth. And especially in Kali Yuga, there's no question of going up. Everyone is going down. The very meals that people eat, right from the time that they wake up, they eat a dead pig along with some other. Anyway, I don't want to say all these things in front of the deities. But they eat abominable foodstuffs. They say abominable foodstuffs people eat right on breakfast, and then for lunch and they eat something worse. And for dinner, just by what they eat, it's so they're going down. There's no question of going to the heavenly planets. And why? Why is this? Because everyone, we need to have a philosophy of understanding how we live life. Why do we live how we live, right? And as long as there's scripture in the center, then you can't really indulge in sense gratification so much. Therefore, the very intelligent demons come up with horrible, misleading philosophies and theories which make one think that you only have this one life, and while you have this one life, you should enjoy it as much as possible. Right? And I've told this to so many people that America is made on advertisement, right? Marketing. America is made on lawyers and advertisers. These are the two things America is made on. And then I'll never remember. I was driving from Florida to Georgia, and then there's this advertisement of an insurance company. And what does this advertisement say? The advertisement says, "You only live once. It's worth the insurance." You know. So there you go. So that now, if you think that you only live once, then what's the point of tapasya? What's the point of austerity? What's the point of morals? What's the point of anything, actually? If you were to examine from this point of view, what's the point of doing anything at all if the goal of life is sense gratification? What's the point? There is no point. You don't have to worry about anything. Just indulge your senses left, right, and center. Indulge your senses left, right, and center. And because we see of this philosophy, the more one indulges their senses, the more hedonistic they become. And the more hedonistic, and we can see, so many things, the transgender movement, the feminism movement, the homosexuality movement, all these movements are based upon this idea of just hedonism. Indulge your senses as much as possible. And Prabhupada makes this amazing point, which, does it ever happen to you reading Prabhupada's purpose and it blows your mind? When you're like, oh my God, I never thought. Prabhupada writes this amazing thing in the purport to Bhogaishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Pahita Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samado Na Vidiyate, where the translation is that a person who is always meditating upon, or when a person has too much bhoga, which means, bhoga means sense gratification, enjoyment. That's why, what do we offer to Krishna? Prasad? No. Krishna is the only bhogi. We are all to be enjoyed by Krishna. But if we think, oh, this bhoga is for me, that's not a good route. So it says bhoga, that bhoga, when one who's enjoying too much, not offering the stuff to Krishna, and Aishwarya, too much enjoyment and too much opulence. What does it do? Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Pahita Chetasam. What happens is you cannot focus your mind on one thing. You lose focus. Samadho na vidiyate. Because of this, you will not be able to attain samadhi because of too much indulgence in sense gratification. So, Prabhupada writes in this purport, and it's amazing. Prabhupada says that when there's too much opulence and indulgence of the senses, a person becomes mad. A person becomes mad. And we can see, why is there a mental health crisis going on in most of the world, especially worlds which have a lot of sense gratification available, in countries which have a lot of sense gratification? Why? Why? Because too much indulgence of the senses. And because there's too much indulgence of the senses in the sense objects, then people start to forget the goal of life. Oh, the sense gratification. And then you can have everything in this world and you can enjoy it, and the dissatisfaction leads to frustration. And that frustration leads to crazy ideas. And because of this, people start to lose their sense of discrimination. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, text number 8, he says, Pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidurasuraha nasocham nabichacharo na satyam teshu vidyate. I think I said 8, right? Please go down, Prabhuji. Let's see what verses. I'm not. Oh, hold on. I just want. No, go back 1 or 2 verses. Not 19. We can get there. We'll get to 19. Don't worry. Okay. Then is that it? No. Actually, I'll even quote this verse. Go to the Sanskrit. Prabhupada. Anyway, Krishna says it's amazing. Etam drishyam avashtabhya nashtat manolpa buddhayaha prabhavant yugra karmanaha shayaya jagato hitaha. He says this, that because of such ideas, and I'll read this, go back 1 verse, I'll read another translation, and then we'll read the translation of both these verses together. So now we can see that there's so many demoniac philosophies which are going on right now. And Krishna sums up all the philosophies of the atheistic personalities in 1 verse. In 1 verse, Krishna spoke this verse more than 5,000 years ago. And every atheistic philosophy that you see leads to this verse. And what is it? Asatyam apratishtamte jagadahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim manyat kama haitukam. Translation. They say this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it's produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. No cause other than lust. And then next one. Following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost in themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Right? We can say this. And every new solution that comes up, is actually worse than the problem itself. Right? Why did we have cars? Why was there a need to have cars? Because people were too upset with the smell that the horse manure produced on their roads. So to get rid of the smell of the horse manure that was produced on the roads, then the idea of cars came about. And now we can see that comparatively speaking, the smell of horse manure is a much smaller problem compared to the humongous problem of global warming and all these things which are generated from all these other things. Now it's electric cars. But then it takes more fuel to make the engines for the electric cars than you would use to just drive cars on diesel or gas or whatever. And then what's even worse is that after 10 years of using an electric car, the battery becomes completely useless and is made of uranium, which is not a biodegradable element. So it destroys the earth even more. Why? Unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Right? So we can see and understand these points. And how does this happen? And Prabhupada would always say, what is this nonsense Big Bang Theory? They always say, very soon, have you ever heard Prabhupada say, very soon we will create life in the laboratory. And Prabhupada said, they've been telling me this since I was a child in school, and now my body is 75 years old. Prabhupada says transcendental body, of course. It's 75 years old, and still they haven't said. And then every time you go, they say, very soon we will. And what did Prabhupada call it? He called it a three-word phrase. What is it? Post-dated check. It is a post-dated check. The scientists give you post-dated checks. So here's a post-dated check. Here's a post-dated check. I'm going to, what's your name, Govinda? I'm going to give you $1 billion and you can cash it 100 years from now. Is there any use of this, Govinda? Is it used if I gave you? No, of course not. You can't pay your bills with this. You can't do anything with it. It's 100 years later, you can get $1 billion. You won't be living, probably. I won't be living, definitely. It's crazy, right? So all these post-dated checks. And then Prabhupada would always say the scientists, they use these words. The atheistic scientists, they use these words. Of course, there's many scientists who are theistic and they promote that God is the creator of everything. But those who don't, Prabhupada would say they always use words like imagine, maybe, accident, like Prabhupada is speaking about here in this purport. Accident, maybe, imagine. They use these words. And just by saying these things, we can see that it's completely a bluff. What do you mean, right? And it's always a postage check. So, in this regard, my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, has put out a series on YouTube called Logica Spiritus. And in this, he is going over all the theories of the scientists and what they're actually proving right now. So we have a few clips. Can we hear the audio on the TV? Mr. Jumna Prabhu? So now this is a very, hold on. You can't? Okay. Sorry, I'm very bad at editing videos, like you can see. But, these are clips from a very famous and influential, he's not even a scientist, is he? Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's what his name is? Yeah, he's like everyone does the hard work and I speak and give the credit kind of a guy, So this is a person called Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's talking to the famous atheistic scientist known as Richard Dawkins. Dawkins? Is that what you say? Okay. So now you can see a small... Okay, if you can't zoom in, at least...
We imagine a bacterial stowaway in the nooks and crannies of one of these rocks that are cast back into space. In fact, if you do the calculation, there's hundreds of tons of Mars rocks that should have fallen to Earth by now over the history of the solar system. Maybe one of those rocks carried life from Mars to Earth, seeding life on Earth.
That's such a scam. What is this nonsense, right? He's
Can you
saying,
prove that life comes from chaos?
okay, yeah. So he's saying, the starts off with maybe, or he says, imagine, and he just says imagine, but, we edited it to like make him say it more. So imagine, he says, imagine it's like this. And then maybe, this is what happened. And because this is what happened, evolution is a fact, and this is a fact, and that's a fact. But they have no solid basis of what they're saying. All these crazy claims, of life coming from here, there, and everywhere. Then you can put on the other one that I sent you. Okay. So we can see that Prabhupada would always speak about this. And what is the consequence? It's what they believe, and it's what Shastra says what can be done. But these have serious consequences actually. Now Rishi Kumar Prabhu actually did a little research in this. And this is a very amazing thing. That what's the name of the first school shooter? It's the Columbine High School shooting. He was the first person who got into. We can look at this just in a minute. So he's the first person who got into this whole terrible demoniac idea of school, shooting. Breaks my heart to say, but shooting all these innocent kids in the school. But then, when he did it, the T-shirt that he wore, it says natural selection. You see? And then what was the whole idea? Because the whole idea is survival of the fittest. So you can go and you can wipe out a whole bunch of people that you think are not fit. You can wipe them out, and there you'll have better gene to evolve. So that's, okay, so we can say, oh, was it just him? No. But almost every school shooter who did it after him also wore the natural selection T-shirt. Many of them wore it. And all their philosophy is this: evolution, survival of the fittest. So this has very, very horrible consequences, my friends. Therefore, it's important for us to understand the importance of what's in Shastra, what Prabhupada presented to us. Prabhupada's purpose are the panacea for the suffering of this modern world. Right? And now we can see the next one. Is it? Okay. Yeah, this one. So now that philosophy. Okay. So he says that if you shake sand in a box, life comes out of it. You just said that. I didn't make this up. The person who's interviewing this scientist asks him, has there ever been a point where people have created life? And his answer is that there hasn't been yet, but after, very soon, I think I sent you one more video. Very soon, we'll be able to do it. And how do you do it? Is if you shake sand in a box, right? If you shake sand in a box, life is going to come out of it. At least can you get a Rolex watch for me first? Like, how is that going to, can you, very soon you'll be given the mic, okay? So, you shake a box, can you get me an iPhone out of it? Can you get me lots of Bhagavatam sets out of it? Okay, what can you get? If you took a box of sand and shook it, what's going to come out of it? Nothing. Shrama eva hi kevalam, only going to get sand. You're only going to get sand. But we can see. Now, this is in a TEDx talk or some big talk, right? This is, this. I think I sent you the wrong one. Oh, I see. Okay, anyway, if you're not able to pull it up, yes. This is the this is the one which I just told you, but I think there's another one I sent you. Okay. So anyway, if I didn't send it, doesn't matter. But there's actually a TEDx talk where a person is saying, or not a TEDx, a big scientific conference, he said that. It's in the year 2011. He says, many people think that it takes millions of years to create lives, but we have understood that if you have all the right atmospheric conditions, you can create life very soon. And then the interviewer asked him, how long do you think, he said, will it take? He said, maybe 2 years, max. He said 2 years, and it was in 2011, it was 2013, and now it's 2025. And where is life? It's still coming soon in the laboratory. So we should understand the gruesome effects of not being Shastra Chakshusha. These kinds of philosophies are being spoken about, promoted, all these things are happening. But an intelligent person should understand and see everything through the eyes of Scripture, through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada's purports. And if we see everything through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada's purports, then we will be able to understand who is a cheater and who is not a cheater. How all these philosophies, and why are you so fanatical about distributing these books? So many books have been distributed. Where are all the thousands of devotees? Prabhupada was asked the same question. And Prabhupada said, that is none of your business. And then a reporter also asked Prabhupada this question. So many books are being distributed, but we see that not so many people are taking to your Krishna consciousness movement. What's the reason? And Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter if they don't become devotees, but our goal is for the mass education of the populace. This is our goal. Why do we have a temple? To worship Shri Radha Kalachandi, of course, and also to have a Vani Hata. Vani Hata means a place from which you can speak the message of the absolute truth. That's the whole point. So when we distribute these books to people, we do not understand the effect that these books have upon these personalities. We cannot understand. Prabhupada said this book distribution produces an inconceivable auspicity. Inconceivable auspicity. We cannot even conceive of the auspiciousness that is produced by the distribution of these books. So many things. I feel very happy, and I think it's a special treat from Radha Kalachandji for me, because I remember it was maybe 4 years ago. I was distributing books in Piedmont Park, and then Manshiya Prabhu approached this person. This person didn't take it. And when this person was walking away, I said, hey, come back, man. And he came back. And I convinced him to buy a book. And he bought the books, and I got his number, and I invited him to come to the temple, and he started coming around, and that person is Bhakta Nishal. He's here now in Dallas. We meet again. So does book distribution make devotees? What do you think, Bhakta Nishal? Does it make devotees? Yes, it does. So we can, it's so amazing to see that how everything just starts off with one book. And I remember so many people, when they read these books, it completely destroys the atheistic ideas and atheistic philosophies. That is why it is very important for devotees to study Srila Prabhupada's books, not just read them, but study them. And this is an important thing, that one offense of the holy name is Shruti Shastra Nindanam, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. Right? So we can see that Srila Prabhupada's books are the Vedic literatures and literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. So if we ignore reading Srila Prabhupada's books, if we ignore what's in Shruti Shastra, then naturally we commit that grave offense to the holy name, Shruti Shastra Nindanam. It's very heavy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it is very bad to blaspheme the Vaishnavas. And it's even worse than blaspheming the Vaishnavas is disobeying the spiritual master. And even worse than disobeying the spiritual master, 100 times more, is to do Shruti Shastra Nindanam. Is to blaspheme the Vedic literatures, or, in this case, we can see even ignoring the Vedic literatures. So, Srila Prabhupada built this entire movement even before he had temples, even before he had disciples, anything. He was a lone warrior who traveled on the Jaladuta ship, alone with a sword of knowledge in his hand. And he came with this sword of knowledge. His spiritual master told him, simply preach in the English language and it'll do good for you and all those who support you, who assist you. And we can say that inspiration of Srila Prabhupada's books has still kept our movement alive. Rishi Kumar Prabhu and myself, we were discussing yesterday. We were thinking, oh, Kalachandji temple is so successful. And he was saying, yeah, the reason I think the temple is so successful is because they display Srila Prabhupada's books so nicely. And I was saying, I think it's the deities and the prasadam. And then we said, you know what, all three of them, for sure. But, it's true, because we're displaying Srila Prabhupada. Even that is a big deal. But what is big of distributing these books? And people taking to these books. This is the fruit of love of God, which is being distributed freely, but not for free. Right? Freely, because the people can make a sacrifice for these books. So when people read these books, their life is completely transformed. We understand everything about the goal of life. We understand why we should worship Krishna. We associate with the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, Srila Prabhupada. We associate with him personally. So it's very, very important. We cannot underestimate. Nothing happens by accident. It's happened by the arrangements of Krishna. And when we understand these points, then we can worship Krishna with the proper state of mind. That's why Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha Arasa Bhashanilina Hai Prabhu Chittira Ulas. If you're not even reading the books of Srila Prabhupada, then it's very natural that we may have many misconceptions. When we have these misconceptions and we try to serve Lord Chaitanya, that service becomes rasabhas, and such rasabhas is not pleasing to Lord Chaitanya, according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I will end the class over here. If there's any questions, comments, protests, or corrections. Yes, Krishna, Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu. Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu.
Your book that explains the origin of life is called Life Comes from Life, right?
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada's book.
Yeah.
But life comes from non-living matter. I just looked it up on Google, origin of life, and I have to inform you that the origin of life is known as abiogenesis, which is the natural process by which life arose from non-living matter. See, so life actually does not come from life. Life comes from non-living matter.
And Prabhupada would say to this, he would reply that where is the proof of matter giving birth to life? Again, the same idea, the post-dated checks, the promises that is going to happen. Every idea of life that we see, every life form that we see, comes from some other living entity. Okay, so let's just say life comes from life. How did this universe come about? There was a big bang, and when this big bang came about, the whole universe. So now if I just took a bunch of cement, bricks, glass, and wood, and whatever else goes, iron or whatever, steel, that goes into building a building, and if I got it all together and I exploded it, why don't I get a huge skyscraper building? Why don't I get it? Yes.
The life comes from vents from volcanic activity deep within the ocean.
And what's the evidence to this? We can see, you're saying life comes from the vents, but I was not born from a vent in a volcanic ocean. I was born from my mother's womb. And I promise you, her womb was not a volcanic vent or something like that. What about you? Were you born out of a volcanic vent? Have you met anyone who was born out of a volcanic vent and osmogenesis? And they use all these big words, osmogenesis, speculators, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make any sense. We're like, we're very intelligent, speculating like anything. But there's no proof of this. There's no proof. Which life, even a fly, did you see a fly? I am born out of the volcano vent. No, it's a fly is born from a mother fly. There is no evidence of this anywhere. But why do they have to come up with such a complex philosophy? Because otherwise it'll be hard to gratify your senses. That is why. So is that okay, Prabhu? Yeah. No, yes. Want us to keep going at them? Because we could if we had to.
Life could also have been generated by lightning.
Yeah, that's actually what they say, primordial soup, right? So how many times have we seen lightning? And who's born out of lightning? Anyone? You go and look at all the population of the entire universe, including animals. Where is there evidence of life coming from lightning? Someone lightning, and here comes Rishi Kumar Das. Like, where is the evidence of that? No, lightning. My boy is born of lightning. I can go and tell, my friend is born of lightning. But no, there's no evidence of this. There's no evidence whatsoever. So life also may. Why are you saying may? I will tell you is, and I will show you proof. And that's Prabhupada's point. Prabhupada would say, the chicken is a better scientist than you. Why? It's in life comes from life, actually, Prabhu. It's a book right outside. Prabhupada said, life comes from, a chicken is a better scientist than you. Why? Chicken can at least make an egg and make life come out of it. You can't even do that. He would challenge the scientists like this. And in this edition, it's not there, but in the older editions of Life Comes From Life, there's a conversation of Hamsa Dutta Prabhu with Dr. Kovur. Do you remember reading that? And oh my God, he smashes Smashes him. And we can see that they say life comes from chemicals and everything is actually chemicals. It's actually, everything. So then if it's all just chemicals, why does it matter? So for example, if it's, okay, my body is made of chemicals and this stand is made of chemicals. If someone took a hammer and, bashed this microphone, all right, Prabhuji is going to get very upset. Fine. And then, Prabhu, you're going to find the guy, right? But if someone took a hammer and smashed my head, cops are going to be involved. If it's all chemicals, why is it that this bunch of chemicals is more valuable than this bunch of chemicals? Why is it? Why is that the case? If it's all just chemicals, then why is it that, where do feelings come from? Do you ever think like, oh, yes, there's this brick, and dude, this brick really has a feeling of, going to Las Vegas. Like, the brick is going to stay there until you move it. There is no evidence of this. Where is the feeling? Where is the emotion coming from? There is no explanation for this. It's only if, buts, maybe, and very soon. Yes, mother.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a very enlivening class. So my son Braj is 10 years old and he's on summer break, so he does do a lot of watching. And so yesterday he came, Mom, do you know where gold comes from? I said, it's on the periodic table, it comes from the earth. No, gold comes from outer planet, and it's from the supernova. And I was like...
oh, man. Take that TV away from him right now. The brainwashing
and so
device.
I started challenging, and then almost like, okay, you're just going to believe what Prabhupada says. I was
and
like,
I'm
no,
going to believe the scientists.
So as you were speaking, I'm trying to analyze, why is it that, even 5 minutes, it's very attractive. It's very catching. Like, okay, what is a supernova?
Yeah, it's just
a
black hole and a supernova. And
So you brought that point about like advertising is so good. The person who's presenting it is young, attractive, very
good looking,
dynamic,
always,
and with a lot of confidence.
Charisma,
Yeah. And devotees are trained to be meek and humble and fallen. I'm no good. And even if we are having the highest philosophy, we're just nothing and nobody, and
Yeah, that's why Prabhupada said, lamb at home and a lion on the chase. So we should be a lion on the chase. So yes, we're the most fallen and humble, and yes, not me, but definitely not the most humble. But we can say you have to be a lion on the chase and a lamb at home.
This is home, but anyway.
This is home, but we are preaching on the Vyasa sense. So
one more aspect of this pastime is it's so amazing that the demons were cooperating with the demigods to ultimately follow Vishnu's directive. So how can we learn? So all these advertising people who are demonic in nature, what can we learn from here so that we can ultimately even utilize their skills to follow Vishnu?
Yeah, yukta, this is the anasakta se vishayan yataharam upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandha yuktam vairagyam uchyate. That we utilize, for example, you need wood to chop down a tree, right? The handle of the axe is made of wood. You're using wood to chop down wood. That's the example Prabhupada would give. So we use whatever they're using, and that's why I would strongly recommend you can show your son this channel called Logica Spiritus. It's, the clips that I showed you, this is exposing the scientists like anything, right? And there you can see there's so much evidence against what these people are saying about life and the origin of life and all this garbage, They're completely exposed. And another thing you can say about the scientists is they always change their stance. Have you ever noticed that? They always change their stance. When you were growing up, when you went to school, what did they tell you about the cell? Was it a very complex organism or a very simple organism? It's simple, right? Now if you go and now you see it's the most complex organism. And then again in the future they'll find something else out. And so every time their knowledge is wrong because of their imperfect senses. So much, if you read Prabhupada's books in and out, then Prabhupada made this amazing statement actually. He said that if one reads the Srimad Bhagavatam from front to back, along with the Sanskrit and the word for word and the translation and the purpose, at the end of it, he can defeat all the atheists. If you were to do that. So that's a good project. You could do that. You can make sure 1 year you read 41 pages of Bhagavatam every day. In 1 year you can defeat all atheists. No problem. But tapasya karna padega. You will have to perform austerity. You raise your hand, Prabhu. Is that okay, Mother? Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. So I distribute books to people, and sometimes they have this maybe some religious trauma where you have to accept the Bible, and you don't. They're used to seeing religious scriptures as dogmatic, as these different things. So they're hesitant to accept the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when they hear things like a gigantic bird carrying the mountain, they have this resistance to accept Srimad Bhagavatam. So how can I help them come to see Srimad Bhagavatam as the spotless Purana?
See, the thing is, we start right off the bat, right? What's the first sentence in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam? No, the sentence of the introduction, Srila Prabhupada writes. He said, the Srimad Bhagavatam does not speak about God, but touches on the subject matter of the absolute truth. Yeah, and then that's how Prabhupada, boom, when I first read the Bhagavatam, they're like, what? What is it? I thought this was a religious book, what's going on? And then Prabhupada just breaks it down scientifically. So if he convinced them about the stuff in Prabhupada's books or in Shastra about how you're not your body, how this material, with 3 modes of material nature, you're not your body, about Krishna and all these things, then they develop faith. And if you really want, you have to feed them prasadam. That's very important. I remember I was just shooting books to this. I was shooting books in Piedmont Park in Atlanta, and there was like this black gentleman along with his girlfriend, and I went up to him and I was like, "My man, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. I sold him a set of books, and then I invited him to come to the Sunday program. And this person, he started reading the Nectar of Instruction, and then he read the Nectar of Instruction, and then immediately he threw it on the floor. Bam! He told me this. He threw the book on the floor. He said, everything I've been doing in my entire life, this book says is wrong. Everything I did is completely wrong. And then he said, anyway, I'm going to continue reading it. And then he came to the Sunday feast. And he actually came earlier to discuss with me about Jesus. So he came and I started discussing with him about Jesus, everything Prabhupada says, this and that. And then I told him, and then he attended the whole class, and then he took prasadam. And then again he came back and he took prasadam. And as he kept taking Krishna prasadam, then he became naturally more and more favorable towards the devotees. And then he became a bhakta, and then he started distributing Prabhupada's books, and his name was Bhakta Nick. And now he's initiated, and his name is Navani Hodadas. And he's a lawyer, and he just got married to another Mataji that I distribute books to. She's also half black, half white. Her name is Lekha Shravanti Mataji. So, it requires this. We just have to preach the message of Krishna. If you just repeat what Prabhupada said, all perfection is guaranteed 100%. There's no doubt about that, actually. There's no doubt about it. How did Prabhupada, okay, same thing, whatever problems you're facing now, were there during Srila Prabhupada's time? Yes or no? Like, which person walking on the streets of gigantic bird carrying a huge mountain? How many people are going to accept that? Right? What did Prabhupada do? Philosophy, kirtan, prasadam. Just repeat what's in Prabhupada's purpose. Your success is guaranteed. There's no doubt about that. Shraddhavan jan hoy bhakti adhikari. And that faith is infectious. When you have that faith, and you present them the prasadam. And if you really want to see, this is amazing. Purpose, I don't know, I'm going over time, right? Who's in charge now? Kalachandji is in charge, but who else? Hey, can I? Okay, we'll just blame her if anything goes wrong, okay? So you can go look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text number 11, the last paragraph of the purport. Prabhupada makes an amazing point. Yeah, you can go all the way down. Yeah, there you go, right there. You just go up. Okay. Look. Stop. Okay. By performance of yajnas, all activities become purified. As it is stated in the Vedas, now you have to learn this verse, right? Ahara shuddho sattva shuddho dhruva smritihi. Smriti labdhe sarva grantinam vipramokshaha. By performance of yajna, one's eatables become sanctified. And by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one very existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. All these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of the present day society. It's right there. You just distribute books and cook the prasadam and attend Mangalarti, chant your rounds, read the books. That faith is going to be transferred to people who come in touch with you. Is that okay, Mr. Dusijumna Prabhu? Okay, Hare Krishna. So I'll have to end the class here. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution, Daivan Ashram Farm Committees ki jai. Shri Radha Kalachandji ki jai. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha.